Usually, when a magician or an illusionist performs a trick, there is some kind of a reveal or an explanation later on, whether it's from someone else or the actual magicians themselves. However, then, there are illusions and tricks that seem so real they are almost impossible to explain. Obviously, people try to justify and explain them, but usually all they can say is that it's fake without any decent reason as to why. These are the tricks that compel me the most, the ones that everyone will tell you are fake, but no one can tell you how they were faked. So that's what we're going to be having a look at today. So here are 6 impossible magic tricks that are unexplainable. Number 1 is Dan White. Dan White is an American magician who is becoming more and more known for his tricks and illusions. The trick in question isn't flashy or even done in front of a crowd, but it definitely falls into the unexplainable side of things. Whilst at Paste magazine, he asks the interviewer to hold his finger and then manages to move his ring from one finger to another, seemingly without even touching it. Seeing as the interviewer is holding his finger, sleight of hand would have been very difficult to achieve. He then makes it even more difficult to do by getting the interviewer to cover his entire hand and then switching the ring from one hand to the other. The more you think about it, the less sense this trick makes, which adds to how unexplainable it really is. So while it may not be flashy or intense, it's definitely a trick we don't have any explanations for. Number 2 is Richard Jones. Richard Jones was a contestant on Britain's Got Talent in 2016 who performed a trick that magician Oz Perlman performed on America's Got Talent a year before. However, Richard's trick was a bit more advanced. The trick featured Richard showing 2 notebooks, one of which was filled with celebrity names and the other one was filled with drink names. 2 of the judges randomly picked one entry and the trick began. He started off with the celebrity name and made an origami cutout of David Beckham's face, which was the person the first judge had picked. The next judge had randomly picked tea. However, Richard seemed to guess wrong when he pulled out orange soda from a bag he had brought with him. This is when the trick goes from interesting to unexplainable.
So the can starts to heat up.
Oh, come on.
And it gets hotter and hotter. Please feel it. What? Feel the can. It's getting hotter and hotter. Yeah, just make sure that is a sealed can. I asked you to think of one drink. You said breakfast tea. Was that right?
Correct.
If I open this up, ladies and gentlemen, just what you ordered.
No way.
Tea.
Tea in a can?
Please taste it.
It's a proper cup of tea.
Please taste it. Make sure it really is tea.
A delicious cup of
It
tea.
is tea. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It was of course a trick that baffled the judges and the audience, and Richard went on to win the competition with more unexplainable tricks. Number 3 is Dynamo. Dynamo is a popular magician from England who I featured in the past because of his mind-blowing tricks, but he has come out and explained how some of them are done. However, for what might be his most popular trick, he decided to offer no explanation. Now, there has been some magicians who have created the illusion of walking on water, but it is commonly the case where their tricks will be revealed or exposed, and it usually involves witnesses who are actually in on the trick and a designated pool where the magician can pretend to walk on water, when in reality they're walking on a platform that has been put down. But Dynamo took this trick and made it look extremely real. For one, he didn't know any of the witnesses, and he definitely didn't own the area he did it in. And this is because he walked on water in the River Thames, the biggest river in England. This is all while boats are in the water around him, with rowers and ships passing him by. He eventually is taken in by what appears to be the police. It's interesting because the boat that takes him in gets extremely close to him, and if there was a platform there, the boat shouldn't be able to drive on it. There are some people who are understandably skeptical, but this trick does remain for the most part unexplained. Number 4 is Darren Brown. Darren Brown is a mentalist and an illusionist from the UK who is very well known for his mind-blowing tricks and illusions. He performed a trick that is very popular to perform, known as the nail in the bag trick. The idea is that 6 bags will be randomly placed in a row and one of these bags will contain a nail. The performer will then slam their hand down into 5 of the bags, all of which should be empty. Darren starts off this trick by throwing a red circle into the crowd, proving that the trick is indeed done with a random volunteer. This may be the most interesting part, as the volunteer is the one who picks what bags Darren will slam his hand onto, and the primary criticism for this trick is that the assistant is in on it. But with this version of the trick, that doesn't appear to be the case. Darren hovers his hand around the bags, and the volunteer tells him when to stop. He then slams his hand on the bag 4 times in a row without hitting the nail, before eventually getting the volunteer to slam the 5th one, which of course is also empty. He then reveals the 6th bag, which does indeed end up having the nail in it. There could have been some trick to this, but Darren Brown did a great job of making it seem like it was random, and it remains unknown as to how he did it with such confidence. Number 5 is David Blaine. Arguably the most popular magician today, David Blaine's tricks sometimes aren't even tricks. I mean, sometimes he'll just kind of stab himself.
See how it really looks?
Sorry, David, seriously. This isn't a trick. You're just sticking a needle through your fucking arm.
But he also has a fascination with what the body is capable of, and endurance in general. So it makes sense that the trick in question is all about that. There is an extremely rare skill known as spouting, where a person can actually produce water from their mouths at any time in any place. It was popularized by a performance artist known as Haji Ali, who would drink up to 100 glasses of water and then proceed to spout it out. There are a few people who can do this in the world, but it seems as if it is a skill that they've known all their life. David Blaine decided to try and learn it, and he actually succeeded. He's even able to drink kerosene, light things on fire, and then put the fire out with the water that's in his stomach. It seems like an impossible trick, but there are people who can do it. However, David Blaine took it a step further by actually learning how to do it, and doing so in a very short amount of time. Number 6 is Jamie Raven. Jamie Raven is actually another entry that's taken from Britain's Got Talent, this time in 2015. I wouldn't usually feature 2 entries that come from the same place, but I've made an exception as this trick is about as unexplainable as they get. He asks the judges to pick a colour, suit, and a number, and then tells Simon Cowell that he has the ability to change it if he wants. Cowell decides to change it to the 7 of hearts. This is seemingly randomly selected. Raven then flicks through a deck of cards to reveal a flip animation that shows a man pulling out the 7 of hearts.